It's gone along very nicely, thank you. Alex Bell did a great job when athletes ahead of her went ahead a bit too quick. Alex dropped back, worked with Eilish, has got Eilish back to that group ahead of her, and they are spot on their time that they were aiming for, 2:20 as a finish time. So good news there. There's Alex, has done a great job of working back to the overall pace group ahead. You can see nice and steady there, 5:22, 27, 23, 25. Got herself in a good rhythm. It's just going to be about how long she can hold that through the race.
It is, but this is great for Eilish because this is what she didn't have last year. And imagine the psychological boost she just got then when she worked her way back to that group that had earlier on disappeared up the road ahead of her. And she managed to focus on the heels of Alex, who did a brilliant job gauging that, and now has a group to run with, and she's got that feel-good factor of having worked her way into that group and maybe now on ahead.
Right, well, the big three here, Helen Obiri, Tigist Asefa, Jocelyn Jepkosgei. We have been waiting for this race for so long, and this is already proving to be a cracking event. Look at that, they're running well under the pace we were told they were going to go. It is warm, not for these guys in the sense they would have contended with this sort of thing on many occasions, but the pace is hot. And certainly for Helen Obiri, that's where the big question mark is, because Helen's never gone out this pace, never gone out this hard. Asefa certainly has done, and has got a couple of fast times for 2:14 as well for Jepkosgei. So they'll be a bit more familiar with this, but they'll know the pedigree of Helen Obiri. And the longer Helen stays there, the more they'll get a little bit stressed about it. But I mean, would you be having a... well, you wouldn't have had a word. You would have just keep going faster. But
I wouldn't have been there at this pace. I'd have been about 5 minutes back down the road.
But, you know, those three are very experienced, and they've got two experienced pacemakers. I just wonder whether there's been any conversations. I haven't really seen evidence of that.
Saw Asefa, didn't we, move up early on and have a word with the pacemakers. Incidentally, one of the pacemakers we've lost, Anshinalo Desi, won Dubai in 2:18.5. So she's a phenomenal runner and not been able to stay on at the pace. But I'm watching the face of Jocelyn Jepkosgei, who kind of made this mistake last year, didn't she? She went out too fast and then she paid. She looks worried at this point, and that has to happen when you've run as somebody. They can't all three keep maintaining this pace to the finish. So somebody's going to have played the tactics right and someone's going to have messed up here.
Yeah, and last year Asefa kind of just wore everybody else down off a fast pace. So that will continue for the men. We said we were hoping for something pretty quick, and they've started fast as well. I tend to wait until they get to 10k, because the first 5k, Paula, the first few miles we've said can give us some unusually quick mile splits. It tends to jump around a bit. And then after 10k, you get a bit of idea how they're settling down. So they're through about 7 at the moment, and there you can see at 5k, those who we expected to be in that lead group were all there. The interesting thing for me, Paula, I said before the start, was chatting to you before we came on air, that Tola, who everyone says, oh, he's a great racer, won the Olympic, has won big, but he doesn't, to use a phrase, doesn't have the wheels at this pace, but he's decided to go with this fast pace.
Yeah, I mean, he's been training in that group. I know he trains with Kajeelcha, who is one we are really watching to be able to, who certainly does have the pace. And that's the difference, I guess, here. Tola's got the experience over the marathon and kind of knows what it means to go out at a certain pace. For Kajeelcha, this will be feeling very, very easy right now. And it'll be that mental game of making sure that he saves enough. But I think Tola maybe has a quicker race in him. He's just not necessarily been in the fast races. He's been trying to perform, or perhaps not been in shape.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one to watch that. So it's a big group, running fast, running very fast. Certainly inside the course record, which Kiptum, who's sadly no longer with us, Kiptum, who set 2 hours 1:25 when he won here. So this is the Brits. Alex E just having a chat there with the guys. Really important that they keep on pace. Okay, some discussions going on there.
Does it look like there's a couple of groups together out there, aren't there?
There's all the Brits are in there together because one or two were thinking of being. There must be another group because I don't see Jake Smith in that group. It's going to be interesting, that, isn't it? I mean, Phil last year went out pretty.
In the 2010, she won what, 4 times in a row. 2013 to 16, the American Catherine de Brunner. You can see how close they have to get that draft. De Brunner just sitting right behind McFadden. Wheels can touch chairs, can just about.
They can. I mean, if that was me, I'd be trying to get a little bit closer because Tatiana has quite sort of broad shoulders, and the closer you can get in, the better it is. But also, you can see there's a little bit bumpy on the roads at the moment, and Catherine looks like she's coming out to maybe make a move, or if we're going into a corner, yeah, you see Tatiana's struggling a bit, pushing with one hand to make the turn. Tatiana's a 54, so she's got stomach muscles, which Catherine de Brunner doesn't have. But this makes a huge difference. I mean, until Boston last week, you'd absolutely said that Tatiana McFadden's best days are behind her. She came third in Boston. She was 4 minutes behind de Brunner.
Race for the one man who's dominating this men's race. He's only about 15 minutes or so away from the finish line, Marcel Hug, and he is a long way clear of the rest. Well, there we are as it stands at 30 kilometres. Liu Jingjuan, who gave him some company, Marcel Hug, for a while, and David Weir, who was they were in a group of 3, but David Weir now is Tomoki Suzuki, 3-time winner of the Tokyo Marathon, just about for company as well now, and Watanabe is some way off that. But David Weir and Suzuki, you would imagine, are going to be working hard for a port, just being chased by that bear stroke dog. He's very close to him. Anyway, it's I think those who are in the costumes, they hope for far cooler conditions than we're going to get today, certainly later on. That's going to be hitting the wall and then some towards the end. But again, racing for those reasons, racing for charities, and able to have a bit of a conversation at the start as they set off. And so many running with their phones now as well, chronicling the whole episode.
Yes.
He said wearily.
Well, good luck, Daddy Pig. He might. What was that rhyme you used to do to your kids? This little wishing was number 2 on the this little piggy
Went to market.
Yeah, so number 2 was this little
Piggy stayed home. All right.
You're right
the last
about the
one
weather,
went wee all the way home.
You're right about the weather.
Wow.
Well, good luck. This is everybody out there. We'll be following as many of the stories right through to the end, and don't think on the Mall, and then it switches into the park until midnight.
Is it Tokyo that they have the very firm cut-off point? At a certain point, they'll just put the cones out in the barrier and say, nope, that's.
I think it's 30k, isn't it? If you don't
the
hit
30k
that,
mark, yeah.
Yeah, they've
you
got a
have to get
couple
in
of
the
cut-off
bus.
points, yeah. All right, Paula, this is quick still. They've slowed a little bit, as we'd expect, but they are still running very fast. They start to, I mean, there's the 1 hour mark, isn't too far away. Neither is halfway. So, as this continues, you start to think, you talked about Jepkoskai last year, that starts to play on her mind. For Helen, I've never done this before, this is new to me. Asefa's the only one in that group of 3 who you think might be feeling a bit more confident about this. Certainly in the press conference the other day, she was saying, I'm in better shape than last year.
Yeah.
So she might not be too disappointed with this.
Yeah, I mean, she's had the bar set, hasn't she? She saw her world record taken, but then she's also seen her Ethiopian record taken in Barcelona this year as well, with a 2:10.51, I think it was, time there. So she's obviously knuckled down. She knows she's done the work in training to come out here and move at this pace. Helen, I'm not sure. I think she'll be thinking about racing it. I don't think she'll be thinking too much about the times. Do they mean too much to her when the times that she's used to in her head are so much back from this? I think she's just focusing on the race at this point. But Jepkoskai is the one who I do think it will be running through her head, even though she did bounce back from that with that 2:14 in Valencia.
And behind these, we mentioned Eilish McColgan. There's a group of athletes in between Eilish and this group. Eilish is still on around 2:21, has slowed a little bit and has dropped off again with Alex Bell still trying to keep her company. And then behind behind Eilish, a gap on the road, but it'll be Jess Warner-Judd who's running with Rose Harvey, and they are right spot on the pace that they wanted, which was about 2:24 pace. It may well be that they start to get sight later on in the race of Eilish, but she's got company there, which is what Eilish wanted. So pretty steady so far. So going to plan for Eilish, settled into a nice pace. Let's hope she can keep it going.
Yeah, and the men, meantime, are settling fully into this Tigist Asefa and Kiplima both taking advantage of their drinks bottles. Interestingly, it's Kiplima who's holding on to his and doing that kind of tried and tested in the early stages. Just keep running with the bottle, take as long as you can. There's no limit to how long you can run with that bottle for. You could run with it theoretically to the next bottle station in the next 5k. They won't do that far, but he is smart, I think, in holding on to that, keeping his fueling going. And interesting that Sawe was so quick in jugging it. Kajeelcha's got his there as well.
Yeah, so it's sorted out fairly quickly already there in that group. So Sawe there, Kiplimo, Kipruto, Tola, Galetta, Kajeelcha at the back of the group. And then a gap then to others who've decided this is too quick. And as they come round Cutty Sark, all of the crowds will continue to build there. Always a wonderful viewing spot. Great atmosphere. And they know they are running quick enough for us to talk world record. I just think at this early stage, we have to temper that somewhat. That's a good sign. I hope Issy sees it. Yeah, it's always hard, isn't it, Paul, in these early miles to really take it too seriously, because I don't know how many times we've said that in the London Marathon now about how quick they're going. So yeah, settle down to a 4:44 there. And if they're around that 4:40 mark for lots of these miles, then yes, we're in for a 2-1 or quicker.
Yeah, and I think this next mile, the 7th mile that's yet to come up, might pop up a little bit quicker, and it's probably a reflection of just how strong those crowds are through that Cutty Sark area. And the athletes absolutely do feed off the crowds, feed off the atmosphere, and perhaps that's why we are seeing a brilliant atmosphere out there today, and perhaps that's why we're seeing such quick paces being set. Here is the second group of runners. There is Jake Smith in there, actually with Lipschitz is in there as well. Should have been in the front group, shouldn't he? So.
Well, these guys opted to go a little bit slow, and I think obviously that's you've got to roll the dice, or you don't. You kind of go, I think they're going too quick, I need to go slower. So they are behind the main British group, which Alex Yee is pacing, but nonetheless, we know what happens in these sort of races. Others have gone too quick, they'll come back to you. You start chasing people down. You can run a negative split here in London, 100%. You can run quicker for the second half. So it's all about judging it. Run the pace that you and your coach have decided upon, and then you've got to stick to that, certainly for the first 25k. Then you see where you're at.
And there is that question, isn't there, about the paces actually being in there, because with the no paces in there, every man in that group would be tuning into their own bodies and their own instincts and seeing what they're capable of doing.
Oops, we've lost another pacemaker, and she was hoping to go to 30k. Now, if something's happened there, I'm not sure, because by the way, if you can't keep up with the pace, pacemakers drop out. So she's chasing the lead group there. So I don't know whether something happened. She'll try and get back to them if she can, I'm sure, because they will need that help. I think she is just about getting back. I wonder if something occurred which we weren't able to see, because she's now onto the back of that group.
May have gone back for a drink, potentially. They'd just gone through the 20k drink station.
All right, which is, that was a good hard throw across, wasn't it? Anyway, this is cracking so far. Look at that, 20 kilometers, 62:41. World record split was 63:12, so they're well inside that. So this is ambitious, I'll put that in inverted commas. I could use other words.
Well, I remember some other words that were used for that world record split, actually, and a lot of people were saying they didn't think that she would be able to hold that to the finish, and didn't exactly hold that exact pace, but did still maintain a very fast finish or time through to the finish to set that world record in Chicago. And I'm not betting against them being able to hold it together here. It's just whether that pace has to slow down or steady down, certainly at some point.
So we're back with two pacemakers, which is good. Very, very quick. They're approaching halfway in this marathon. The target time had been 67.5 for the pacemakers, and they've obviously, either just by accident or by discussion, they've gone way quicker than that. They continue to look at their watch, but this impacts the race in a big way, because you know, we always were thinking, what happens when the pacemakers drop out? Do they slow down? When you go this fast, you really don't want to be in that situation where you start looking at each other. And I know Helen's coach, Dathan Ritzenheim, said Helen isn't going to take it on. You know, if the pacemakers drop out and it slows, great. We're happy with that. Asefa won't want that to happen.
No, she won't. But if you look at the face of Tigist Asefa, who's an accomplished runner in her own right, she actually looks very relaxed. So I think the plan was for them to go close to 30k perhaps, which is unusual in a women's race, to be able to have pacers to go that far. She's checking her watch there, she's hitting the splits. When that pace to Ymiif did drop back, Asefa was right alongside, and she was the one almost keeping stride with Gebrselassie to make sure that that pace was maintained. There was no letting up to allow pace 2 to come back to the front. So I think she's definitely the one who's urging this pace on.
Well, we still have a race on in the women's wheelchair race, and still it's these two. Catherine de Bruyne, who's won it 3 of the last 4 years, sitting behind Tatjana McFadden, 4 times the champion, 4 in a row from 2013 to 16, but hasn't won a major marathon since Chicago 2021, but she's still there with de Bruyne, leading them at the moment. A little bit lower down as she tried to make her way through the field, but 10th place for Eden Rainbow Cooper, scuppered by that puncture before the start. No problems at all for Marcel Hug into the dappled sunshine and shade of, well, the closing stages, the very closing stages now of this race. And Marcel Hug, since really about halfway, he's been...
Because you can see that you go down the front of the push rim, and it's actually the bottom of the rim where you get most of your speed from. When you start to get tired, you lose that ability to pull off the back of the rim and lift your elbows really high. And Marcel is keeping the elbows high and keeping the cadence. And at the moment, he's averaging somewhere between 20 and 22 miles an hour.
Not just this sport, any sport. This is going to be 6 in a row. And this is the sight that all marathon wheelchair racers or runners wish to see. London Marathon coming into the mile.
And it's so easy to forget that second turn as you come round the corner. He's not kind of quite sprinting, but he doesn't need to at this stage. You know, he'll know his time. He's got his clock, he's got his heart rate monitor on, he's got everything on. He'll be so happy to see that finish line and make it the 8th London Marathon.
And the finish line comes close for him now in Tokyo, Boston, New York, Chicago, Berlin. Around the world he wins and wins again, and in London he does it. Marcel Hug. There is a mile and a half between him and the rest of the competitors. He is untouchable. The silver bullet flies again. Marcel Hug, 6 in a row, 8 overall. He matches David Weir. He is the best. He pushes consistently. He wasn't even sitting up much. He was chasing a good time there. He likes the challenge himself, because there isn't really a challenge coming from anybody else. He is astonishing.
I mean,
years ago that they matched the prize money in the wheelchair races and the other races of the London Marathon. So Marcel Hug makes a very good career from it as well. What did I say? That's now 28 out of the last 33 major marathon titles have gone his way.
We need to do some maths. Just a lot.
No, don't do it, Tani. You'll start crying. You did it for the honour and the love of the sport. There we are. Back to the women's race.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting in the women's race. 66-12 through halfway. I just think the nature of this means people talk about world records. I don't think that's the case here, but the women's only world record certainly. But this is going to at some point develop into I want to win London Marathon. Helen O'Beary, first time here in London. Jep Koskai's won it before. Asefa, last year's winner. That's the big deal here for these. The time is great, but the pace that's been set is part of the story, isn't it, about who's going to win this? And for Asefa, the story continues that let's keep the pace reasonably good. For Helen, I don't mind if it slows a little bit because she'll trust herself to be quickest at the end. I still think Jocelyn just hangs on as long as she can. But yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, or does Jocelyn just conserve enough strength to be able to come through when those cracks start to show? It is really intriguing, and it's how far can those paces go, because that makes a big difference, because all of those factors you just talked about only come into play really once those paces step aside. Is there starting to be a little bit of fatigue there? I mean, nobody be dissuaded from believing in Helen O'Beary just because of the style that she runs, by the way. I was chatting to her coach Dathan, and even he said he doesn't know how she's feeling by looking at her because she makes it look hard work.
Back to the women's wheelchair race, and is Catherine de Bruyne starting to make her move? I can see in one of my other monitors that in the women's running race that Alex Bell has just dropped out in her support of Eilish McColgan, back there shortly. But de Bruyne against McFadden, this is quite a race, Tani.
It is. I think most of us are quite surprised that Tatiana has been able to stay with her so far. There's been a few little kicks from Catherine. The road is still a little bit bumpy at the moment, but you know, once they're through the next part of the tunnel, I'd imagine Catherine is going to want to start putting on the pressure. But it's pretty tough right now. It's this cat and mouse, and at what point do you kick?
But if you're Catherine de Bruyne and you want to make a push, McFadden, can she just sit in that draft?
Yeah, absolutely. There is absolutely nothing in the rules to say that you can't sit in the draft for another female athlete. There's quite strict rules on women drafting men. Men, I mean, if it's about pulling out, but I don't think anyone would have predicted this at the start.
No, we did favour Catherine de Bruyne for the win. They were just having a look across to Tatiana McFadden, saying, right, you do a little bit of the work. This is David Weir coming up the mile. He's going to take third place in this year's London Marathon, which nearing 47 years of age is a very, very fine effort. Lu Xingjuan, the Chinese athlete, finished second behind Marcel Hook. Third place for David Weir, and he just keeps on rolling in the marathon. It's such a wonderful advocate, supporter.
Something entirely different, but this looks...
What is he? It's a plan. You can see it on his head. Plant written on his helmet. So.
We also have problems sometimes with the chip timing with the metal on the chair. Yates is looking really tired. Another triathlete turned into marathon racing.
Well, it's fourth place for the Dutch athlete. It was just beyond an hour and a half.
Oh, he looks tired.
McFadden is a T54, de Bruyne is a T53. So in terms of turning, that core strength that McFadden has over de Bruyne.
So as a 54, you can use your hip flexors in the chair because the chair is moulded around you, and you can almost pop your front end and just slightly sort of bounce in and out. But it looks like Catherine, not a conclusive move at the moment, but she's decided she wants the pace to be faster going into the last couple of K.
The gap starts to open, you lose that draft, and that's when the elastic can snap and de Bruyne could move clear.
And also at this point in the race...
Women's terms of modern times, Tatiana McFadden just before that, along with Manuela Scher, who I think is still in third place at the moment. But can McFadden find something here? This would be a huge surprise if she could challenge Catherine de Bruyne.
It would be a massive surprise, because the last couple of years she's had a lot of injuries, she's been sick, she's been struggling to put her training together and hasn't had that consistency.
Yeah, still the three big names together, Asefa, Jep Koskai and O'Beary. They have slowed since halfway, as we were expecting them to. The pacemaker's doing a good job, but I think they're really stretched now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't think they'll get too much further. Asefa just going over to grab her drink, or a drink. And in the men's race, they did slow as well from that very fast early pace. but the main contender's still there. Sawe, last year's winner, Kit Limo, just in between the two pacemakers. You can see there Sawe's tucked in behind them. Tall figure of Kajeelcha's look very assured, as you might expect in these early miles, because he's so quick at half marathon. I've noticed he's been hanging on to his drinks longer than most of the others, but that group is a decent early group. Then there's a group further back, and then the Brits are all still together, with Alex Yee leading them at the moment as we get to the end of the women's wheelchair.
Yeah, dramatic finish in prospect here. Again, the very scenic finish of the London Marathon, but Tatjana McFadden just sitting in behind De Bruyne. You can see there's a little bit of wobbling on the road there.
There's a few sets of cobbles along here where you have to keep really aware, because it's almost like a tiny step up and then the cobbles and then a little bit of a drop down, and a couple of speed humps as well, which all have the potential to destroy your pushing technique and just knock you out a little bit. And it's interesting now, you know, just at what point Catherine's going to go. I'd imagine it's going to be fairly soon, because when she'll want a decisive kick, she won't want to lead it, because it's also a slight uphill to the finish, which is not necessarily in her favour.
Who has the power? We know that McFadden has perhaps the slight advantage going round the bends because of her added function, but De Bruyne surely has the power in trying to push here. That gap just inches as McFadden sits in the draft of De Bruyne. Winner of 3 of the last 4 London marathons, De Bruyne. McFadden again won 4 times in a row from 2013 to 16, but it's been a long time since she challenged here.
And this is the final set of turns where you saw that Catherine had to come out slightly wider. She had more time off the push-rooms. But this looks where she's actually...
The male competitors, as she comes past, De Bruyne is heading for victory again. Look at that gap now as we sail down with them, down the mile, down with Catherine De Bruyne towards victory again in the London Marathon, and it will be second place for Tatjana McFadden, who just didn't have that power in the sprint towards the end there. De Bruyne, like Marcel Hoog, not quite as dominant as Hoog in the men's marathon wheelchair racing, but my goodness, she is the woman to beat. And Catherine De Bruyne takes the title again.
I mean, an incredible race from Catherine in terms of being measured and not panicking and thinking through. You know, she hasn't done a lot of back-to-back marathons in the past, so it was unusual. She did Boston and then came to London. A little bit of a smile there. She might have been expecting Manuela Schär to be with her opposed to Tatjana McFadden, but for McFadden, that is a massive step up. It just shows an incredible race today for the wheelchairs.
Well, the Marie Curie folks are getting a great reception as they head off on their journey. As I said, the finish line stays open until midnight. If there are people out there you want to give a shout out to, there's a QR code. You can text to 81111 and let us know who is out there for you, who you'd like to give us or give a cheer to, and we'll try and get through as many of the messages later on as we possibly can. And if all 60,000 have got somebody sending a message, and then good luck to whoever's collating that. But yeah, and overall, good luck everybody. That's what we're looking for. There's Laura just going through. That's a Cutty Sark. Yes, it is Cutty Sark. Going well so far. Hey, this is a great.
He takes third in the women's wheelchair race.
All right, well, the guys here at the start of the men's, or the lead of the men's race, are approaching Tower Bridge. It's been a little bit up and down. It did slow for a bit, but they kind of settled back into a good pace again. You can see there, 4:26, 11th mile. It is one of the quicker miles. The 12th one is a little bit of an uphill. This is one of the biggest hills on the route, actually, going over Tower Bridge. If you can say it's a hill, but it's definitely a rise to the summit of the bridge, and then kick off down the other side, and then take your right-hand turn towards Canary Wharf. So they're all still there, Paula. We haven't really had the chance to get a close-up look at too many of them, what they look like, and you wouldn't expect the quality of these guys to be straining too much at this point. But
No.
on pace?
Yeah, on pace. And I think in contrast to the women's race, this men's race is building. So I do think, I mean, it sounds crazy when they actually are running still at a very, very fast pace, but I do think that there is that ability here for them to kick on the second half of this race, and like you said, the second half can be a fast half here in London if you don't overcook the first half, and I think this men's race is really setting up to be that. Kiplimo is bouncing along.
Yeah, they are, and the main protagonists we were hoping would be in there. Tola's in there as well. It's full of talent, full of experience, even though Kiplimo is still very early on in his career. But, you know, Sebastian Sawe, 3 massive marathons, all 2-2, by the way. I mean, he's set himself a massive bar to reach every time he performs. But the pace suggesting that we could be in for something similar. Sawe, we should say, has kind of had injury problems leading into this one, unlike last year. We had lots of indications from him last year that he was going so well. This year, I think he stepped on the rail of a track after in the autumn after his Berlin performance. Found out he then had a stress fracture, had some back problems going into November, December. So really has had a shortened build-up, but we'll come on to that in a second. We dropped one pacemaker about 5 or 6 minutes ago. Now they've both gone. So this is about the race now, Paula. What happens now? They've slowed down each kilometre a little bit, and I think Asefa will think, right, and you can see that already, this is my chance.
Do you think she even gave a tap on the shoulder, because those mile splits were slowing and they'd slowed down to a 5:17 for that last mile before that, so perhaps she even kind of tapped Gebrselassie on the shoulder and said, that's it, you're done now, your work's over, now it's about racing. And that was a definite surge. But now that she's in that front position, there we go, 5:15 for that 17th mile. Now she's doing the work, and the other two really do have to just sit there and wait. And you can see it's actually quite hard for Abiri to do that. She likes to keep a view of the road ahead, so she is behind, and Asefa has to look back to check where she is. But also what Helen's got is a clear view of the road ahead, in contrast to Jepkosgei, who's just focused on the back of Asefa.
Yeah, and this is the tough thing for Asefa, because the other two are not really going to want to do it. I mean, Jepkosgei, if she was feeling great in the last couple of miles, might give it a go. She's still there, but Helen will wait until she sees Buckingham Palace if she needs to win this. So the onus very much on Asefa to dictate the pace here. As kind of, is she talking to Jepkosgei, or just kind of, you know, when you do that whole thing, looking around as she's doing, looking around, there's two parts to that. One is I'm trying to show you I'm relaxed, I'm cool, I'm just checking where you are. But for me also, if I was Helen Obiri, I'd be thinking, yeah, you keep looking around.
Yeah,
because
totally.
You're only going to see me right here behind you. And so anytime you look around, fine by me.
It's a sign of weakness. If we talk about why Asefa is doing this, of course she's finished second in the Olympics, lost out in a sprint in the World Championships as well. That's why she's so keen to keep pushing the pace on. And don't forget that Helen Obiri, when she beat her in those Olympics into that bronze medal position, Helen Obiri was coming off just 6 weeks of training.
Yeah, that Olympic course was brutal as well, wasn't it? A big hill. Okay, so here's Eilish, still with company. She's dropped back to kind of somewhere between 2:21, 2:22 pace. Jess Warner-Judd is chasing her a bit further back. So you can see there now, projected finish has actually just slipped a little bit more to 2:22, 26. And this is beginning to mirror the race for Eilish last year, except she's got more company. Andrew?
Of course, we'll tidy up all the results for you later on. But it's a very, very busy finish there.
Maddie Rosario just crossed the line.
Yeah,
and she would have expected, you know, Paralympic champion, she would have expected to be a little bit further up the field. And this is Australia's Christy Dawes, whose first Paralympics was in...
Went through the half in a very swift 60 minutes and 28 seconds. So you don't need to be too much of a mathematician to say just under 2 hours 1. So the course record, 2 hours 1:25. That is in sight. even the world record would still be in sight, but I just don't think it's quite the day for that, given the field that we've got. Normally when guys have been going for the world record over the years, they can throw caution to the wind, attack the time, but here you want to win. This is London.
Yeah.
These guys want to win this race. They want to run fast if they can, but number one, it's winning. So kajeelcha's still there. Limo looks very relaxed. We expected him to be the Ugandan on the right there. Kajeelcha is still in this group as well, the other Ethiopian. But Sebastian Sawe now with just one pacemaker left. It's been so quick. I'm not sure how much longer he'll last, Paula, and then we'll see who fancies taking it on.
And then it will be down to the racing, and we might, as you said, see those times start to yo-yo and slip a little bit from projected fast times into actual raw racing, and the calibre of them just assessing each other at the moment. And there's Alex Yee pacing the British group. There is Patrick Diva on the near side, fresh from that boost that he really got from learning that he was upgraded from 4th to 3rd with that testing positive of Albert Correa ahead of him. It's a shame he didn't get that moment, but I do think that gave him a lift coming into London, knowing that he'd actually had a podium in his debut.
Yeah, Jack Rowe there as well, the tall figure on the far side. A whole bunch of Brits in this group, including Gabriel Selassie as well. And one or two others I might not have expected. Twelde is in there at the back as well. Twelde, Mohammed still in that group. So a lot of Brits in that, which is great to see. Going well, working with each other. Right, well, Jep Kosgei had a little sniff at the front, didn't she? You and I were watching it, and then Asefa was taken that opportunity through these twists and turns a little bit through Canary Wharf. Can start to play on tired legs. Now, Helen can often look under pressure. That's Helen's way of running. What I love about this, Paula, Asefa, former 800-metre runner, Helen Obiri, former 1,500-metre runner, here running a super fast marathon. So Helen having to go and grab a drink there. Well, that looks as though she's struggling a bit.
That was significant there, because I think caught up in the race, Asefa decided she was putting a surge in. Hadn't worked out that was the 30k drink station coming up there. Helen went to chase her, switched positions around Jep Kosgei, who then realised that the tables were there. So when Jep Kosgei went, Helen went for her bottle. We now suddenly have two with a slight lead over Helen Obiri that we thought would be holding on, and she is working her way back. But will Asefa yet pay for not taking the fuel on there at 30k?
Yeah, important in this stage of the race as well. We'll find out if that's an error or not somewhere down the line or down the road here. But Helen's got herself back on. Important. But you can see these are the kilometres where the chopping and changing is happening, the pressure being applied by Asefa, this incredible story of a track runner who was very, very good, world class. And then when she moved to the marathon, just kind of astounded everybody. And bear in mind, Paula, she's never been out the top two in her marathons so far. An incredible record. You talked about her getting outkicked by Sifan Hassan, outkicked and outmuscled, you could almost say, in that sprint finish in Paris. Helen was a bit further back, as you mentioned, wasn't perhaps in the best shape, but you know, these are certainly two of the best three. Then you throw in Jep Kosgei, who has always been a great competitor, but produced a big fast time in Valencia, 2:14, 4th fastest ever. Was it 5th fastest ever? Should we qualify? Should we do the Ruth Chepngetich chat now?
Yeah, we can do. So the world record I was talking about earlier is 2:09:53, is it?
Is it
50 something,
yeah.
56 maybe. Why I'm saying it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a moot point in a lot of people's minds because she subsequently tested positive. Unfortunately, because she subsequently tested positive and has been banned, they can't take the record from before. Now, a lot of people, including myself, believe that when you do test positive, you should forfeit everything that went before in your career. Currently, the rules are if they can't prove that you were doping at that point, they can't take the record away. So currently, that is the world record. We then have 2:10:52 that was set by Foyton Tesfaye in Barcelona earlier this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that one has yet to be ratified just in terms of time. When your world records are done, they have to go back, remeasure the course, etc. So that's yet to be ratified. But you're right, the Ruth Chepngetich time, it's whether or not you kind of go, am I 4th on the world list? Am I 5th? Is that time going to do? At the moment, that time still stands, and you're right, a lot of people think it shouldn't. I'd agree with you. So, nonetheless, I think we're heading for a women's only world record. We can say that. I nearly said Liz, that would have been terrible, wouldn't it? Eilish said, you know how many times people say, go on, Liz?
To be fair, she does, the style is there, isn't it? You can see it's in the genes, certainly. And Eilish McColgan is out there sticking well to her task, although you can see that mile 18, she is tiring as well and chasing behind her. Was Jess Judd. Rose Harvey was actually moving slightly ahead of Jess Judd the last time I checked. And Julia Patternine, can we qualify her as a slightly British? I know there's a lot of people in Cambridge and Coleridge will be out there supporting Julia Patternine. Of course, double English schools champion. I don't think she won the Mini. She certainly took part in the Mini and won the Vitality Westminster Mile.
Yeah, you're right. At 30k, Rose Harvey had moved ahead by about 10 seconds of Jess Warner-Judd. Julia, another 8 seconds behind Jess. So those three, kind of, you get the feeling by the time we get the embankment, may well have Eilish in their sights. Meanwhile, front of the men's race, another feed station. Looks like they've just broken up a little bit because of the feed station. Sebastian Sawe and Kajeelcha there. Kiplimo does have his drink, is just taking it on board. Tola is still there. So yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? Because they're joined by Kipruto as well, and Kajeelcha. Kipruto, former winner here. So a couple of these, as you mentioned before, train with each other as well. You know, it's always a great story about his whole life, and you know, his uncle Chep Kirwat was a 143 800-meter runner. It's in the family, but his bit of the family weren't real runners. I think his mum did a bit of sprinting. Very small village he came from.
Okay, sprinters aren't real runners. We are on marathon day. Come on, we are. You can say that today.
Athletic genes of some description, but yeah, you know, he came from I mean, a lot of people coming from Kenya, Ethiopia, that maybe coming from some of the places where a lot of running is done. It wasn't quite the case for him. He was a bit of a late, they discovered him a little bit late. I think his teacher certainly was one of those that said you really should give this a go. So, you know, it's taken him a while to find the marathon eventually, and because I think his uncle wanted him to run 8 and 15s, and he did for quite a long time in his early running career. Just wasn't good enough.
Well, it's a similar trajectory, I guess, to that we saw Jess Warner-Judd take in moving up. It's not unheard of. Asefa was the one who went out in Rio. She went out in the heats of the 800 meters, and so you go from Rio to just 2 Olympics later, and she's up there as a silver medalist. And I don't remember that bit. Is that a new bit? I don't remember going through a bike path.
Roads change, you know,
I know,
Paula,
it is a while
since
since I've been out. Even last year, I don't remember them going through there.
Yeah, there have been a few tweaks over the years, as mentioned, so it gets remeasured on a regular basis. You know, traffic furniture gets put in place, corners get rounded off, etc. But yeah, essentially it's the same route. It is worth talking about the kind of different ways in which these guys have arrived at the marathon as well. You talked about Jess, I mean Eilish as well. You know, Eilish could run she started out as a steeplechaser really in her early running career. Helen was, you know, racing Laura Muir and Laura Waitman, and, you know, in the Commonwealths, the Worlds, the Olympics, and gradually sort of moved through the distances to great success at 5,000 on the track, winning world medals, and Eilish here herself going through that journey eventually to end up in the marathon. Slightly tougher day already looking for Eilish than those in front of her.
Yeah, she's now completely on her own, isn't she? Go on, Andrew.
Just saw her going around a couple of bends while we were focused on the other race, and the little screen I was watching her, and she looked quite uncomfortable And then again, she's tall, and again, just watching her there go around, sometimes you think, oh my goodness, she's almost losing a bit of balance, but you can see how much I think she's slipping back.
Yeah, and you can see by the way the leaderboard behind her is changing, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Julia Pastine has been moving her way through. She's now running with Rose Harvey. Warner Judd is a little bit further back behind that. They're about 1:15, I think, behind Eilish McColgan at the moment, but the key thing is now Eilish is completely on her own. She's trying to take her gels on board, fuels. She's able to get all of that in.
Yeah, they're all slowing, to be fair, quite considerably, including the leaders, which is going to tell us a lot, I think, about the men's race as well. Jess has dropped back to about 2:26 pace. The only thing is, I think, with the three of these here, they are incredibly experienced, know what they're doing, and Asefa, I think now, when they drop down onto the embankment, which will be pretty soon, you get that little kick down, don't you, kind of up from the tower as they're approaching now. When you do that little drop from the tower down onto, you get a bit of shade through that section as well. They've got the Blackfriars kind of tunnel ahead of them before you come really on the embankment, and that's a good time. We've seen many years where that's where people have either dropped off or others have really forced the pace. That sometimes that little bit of momentum, that slight downhill, can just kick you into a different rhythm. She is definitely asking the questions, though.
Yeah, and there's definite fatigue, certainly visible in the other two, I think. It's less visible on the face of Tigist Asefa, but that is also something that is a little bit given with the Ethiopian runners. I know that I've raced many over the years in Gatorwami, Durata Tulu being the most apt at that, and you read no fatigue on their faces until they actually cracked and dropped in the race. There was no sign of fatigue, whereas with Helen, you can see that it becomes a little bit more laboured. It doesn't mean she hasn't still got a little bit left in the tank.
But this pace is now, they're now drifting towards 2:15 pace. And for Helen, she ran 2:17 at Boston, which isn't the easiest course. As said, she's concentrated more on winning races than times. This is the first time she's gone, I'm coming to London because I want to run fast. But now, she's not only running faster than she's ever done before, but now she's in the race to win this. And that's what Helen's very good at. So, Asefa, somewhere in the next 2-3 miles for me, has to really, really find something within herself to break this up a little bit. Otherwise, every single kilometre that goes by, Helen's confidence just grows and grows and grows.
Yeah, I mean, back to the men's race on that, because I do think there's still a lot to play out, and Helen is in unknown territory as well, as is kajeelcha at this point, because he is mixing it, coming in at the very top level on your debut. It's a big ask, it's a fun ask as well, because he kind of gets the wild card this time. He's been messed it up a little bit. It's fine, it was my first one, I'm still learning about it, but he has enough pedigree to scare, I think, a few of these men around him.
Well, we talked a little bit about Sawe, and he was the pre-race favourite, and is continuing that. As we look back at the Brits are all still to...
Where would I make a move? Where's the best place for me to make a move? And this is the point where knowing the course is a little bit of an advantage. And as I say that, the one woman who doesn't know this course at all is the one that goes to the front and turns the screw a little bit for the first time. And I think this is a little bit of mind games from Helen Obiri. Go to the front, maybe slow it down a little bit, but certainly push on, because she sensed some kind of weakness in the other two.
Three-time world champion Helen Obiri, cross-country, 5,000 metres on the track on 2 occasions, as Asefa this time manages to grab her drink, and Helen looked for a bit of space this time to find hers. All three of them successfully grabbing what they need, and it's so important in these last few miles. This is the last drink that will really get into their system and be useful to them. Sun means that, although it's not really, really hot by many races standards that they may have run over the years in different climates, but for a marathon in the last few miles, it's definitely warm, and any shade they're going to get when they get onto the embankment will be gratefully received. But you're right, Paula, this is now about making the right moves at the right time. You won't get a chance to get this wrong at this point. When you make your move, it's got to be decisive, and you're going to have to commit yourself. If you go with somebody else, you have no choice really at this point. If somebody goes, you've got to go with it and hope that you can hang on to it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any coming back at this point. You have to just basically hang on for dear life and just keep holding on for as long as you can. There is the possibility when people drop off that then the next person that drops off might drop off at a quicker rate, so the person who was in third might be able to work back up to second, but this is certainly going to be a whittling away and a whittling away, and subtle moves make a big difference at this point.
Well, you can see there the women's only world record, which was set last year by Tigist Asefa in winning this race, 2 hours 15 and 50. And I think one of these women is definitely going to be strong enough to maintain this pace to the finish and run perhaps under 2:15. A little bit of cat and mouse we will expect, but they are, all of them have had a little look at the front. Asefa, Jepkoskai did her bit. Helen Obiri now just trying to forge on, as Paula was saying, sending the message that I'm feeling good, I'm feeling strong. I know that Ritzenheim said don't expect to see Helen Obiri at the front until the very end. So he might be watching on thinking, okay, Helen, I hope you're feeling good here, but undoubtedly that's what must be going through her head.
Yeah, I mean, I think to give credit to Dathan Ritzenheim, he probably would say, having been the athlete out there so many times as well, the athlete has to make the choice out there about what's right for them. And there is Alex G. What's he doing? Taking a little break, and he's joining back in with a group further down.
He's done his job as pacemaker, and there's no bus.
Oh no, he's just starting Strava to just
On the tube.
get back home. Add that onto Strava, won't he?
Right, well, while that women's race builds into the last few miles, we'll keep an eye on the front here. Look at this, Kajeelcha. We was going to talk about him earlier on. You know, he's a great half marathon runner, has won 3 big half marathons as soon as he went to the roads. And he was talking the other day about people saying, have you found it different? Yes, he said, I've been doing lots more mileage, but I'm loving the roads, you know. And the big question was, if they go fast, will he be able to last it? And I think right now he just needs to be patient. I just saw him there kind of saying to Sawe, I'm here with you. He doesn't want to go at the front. Let the man in charge here take this on. And I'm surprised, Paula, that Kiplimo, who's maybe let this gap develop. Look at him, he looks as though he's been caught out there and is going to try and get back to these two, but he shouldn't have let them get away if he's able to, because both Sawe and Kajeelcha are well capable of keeping this going.
And I think you're right. I think he slightly missed the break there. He was at the back of that group that's now a chase group in here. And this is crunch time for him. This is where he lost it last year, really, isn't it? He didn't have the courage to commit to the move thrown down by Sebastian Sawe. He wasn't able to go with that. This time, I think he perhaps was able, and he missed it. So now he finds himself on his own in there. It's not an insurmountable gap at this point, but he is going to have to work harder. And it is a mental plus in the minds of Sebastian Sawe and Ymiif kajeelcha, because they were able to get away at that point, and they know they can perhaps do it again.
Well, they're still close to 2:1 pace, just through 30k. I think Kiplimo is being smart there, Paula, because he's realised what happened but hasn't panicked. And although they're pulling away, he's got that bit of elastic stretch, but it hasn't broken, and he's just gradually kind of hauling himself back to those two. And these little twists and turns here might even help him a little bit. I mean, when you're working your way back, want a bit of a rhythm there, but...
No, well, I was just going to say that. I was chatting with somebody yesterday, and they were saying they really hated this part of the course. And I said I loved it. And I think it's the cross-country background. And Kiplimo has that cross-country background. He won the World Cross Country in Tallahassee earlier this year. Not on as twisty a course as this bit, by the way. But he is probably more at home on that. And chatting to him last year after the race, he did regret not risking it. He played safe, he finished strongly, but I think he was asking himself the question, should I have committed and gone with that? Now he has that opportunity, but he's going to have to work to get back on the back of that group.
Yeah, Kajeelcha himself, you know, I mean, all the Ethiopians and Kenyans and for Kiplimo, Uganda, great pedigree, country track. But it's tantalizing, what, 8-9 meters to maybe 10 meters. He just can't get back to them there. And Sawe, despite all the question marks about his fitness, he's now trying to run away here. He's now trying to win this. And if you think, Paul, when you're Kiplimo, after a brilliant performance in London last year in his debut, then went to Chicago. Look at Kajeelcha, they're just sprinting almost to go and try and get back to Sawe. But Kiplimo went out at crazy pace at Chicago. He was on world record pace until about 22 miles. It sort of fell apart. Today's been fast, but not so fast. So I think you're right. I think he just missed the break there.
Yeah, and he does. The thing with Kiplimo is, despite the record of everything that he's done beforehand in his career, he has really allowed himself to kind of learn the marathon, hasn't he? He really was cautious, I would say. Well, if you can say that running the pace he ran last year was cautious, but he was in the way that he raced it. Then he went into Chicago and he risked it a little bit more because he could. He kind of had that margin that we were talking about earlier where you could go after the times, and he learned what it was like to feel in your legs, as some of the women are doing now that you've gone out very fast, and what that feels like. And now he comes into this one with that experience, and he's taking his time to get his fuel down him and gradually trying to almost use these downhill sections to reel them in.
Yeah, so 3 men there, the 3, I think we thought the 1-2 from last year, Sawe and Kiplimo. Could Kajeelcha join them? And answer is so far yes. Has he got the marathon legs to last to the finish? Well, that we're going to find out on the next, well, 30 minutes or so, because they're going to run about 2:1. Meanwhile, the women, it's still Helen Obiri forcing the issue here, which is interesting. I mean, if you were Helen, there's 2 things going on here, Paula. Since the others don't want to push it on, you think, well, I've done all this hard work. I want a fast time anyway. This is me trying to run as fast as I can. So if I come second or third, but I'm going to get a big PB, I don't want to throw it away. Or, which is probably more likely, is my best chance to win this race to keep the pace going because I feel so strong. Because normally with Helen, you'd think, sit and kick.
Yeah, there are 2 things that have to be going through your head at this stage in the marathon. And the first one has to be, what have I got left in my tank? The next one is, what do the people around me seem to have there? And then how do I kind of fit those 2 pieces of the puzzle back together in a way that I come out on top? And I think that's what Helen is very, very good at. That's not saying that the other 2 aren't good as well, because they actually are, but she manages to judge that sometimes to perfection. So if she is at the front, I'm guessing she feels like she's got a bit more in her tank than she can sense that the others have. And she hasn't really raced these 2 a lot to be able to gauge that.
Asefa does look composed, I have to say that. And there's Eilish heading back past the tower. Well, the others are on the highway going in the opposite direction, about 6 miles behind her. If she could hold this together, she could still yet do a personal best. The problem is, Paula, she's slowing down. She's not kind of maintaining. So if she can get to 5K to go and then think, yep, I can still raise my game a little bit, then great. But at the moment, you'd think she's going to be close to that personal best, one way or the other. Julia Patanine, we think, would be next on the road. A bit further back, Jess still going. Jess Warner-Judd having a race which is, at the minute, projected to get to her about 2:26. She is still, we think, in the top 10. I think she's 10th at the moment.
Yeah, I think she's finding it tough out up there today. And I just wonder, with the issues that she talked about coming into this, the fact that it's a warmer, sunnier day. When she made her debut in New York, ran phenomenally well. It was a cooler day, and I don't know if that helps her a little bit more.
Yeah, Rose Harvey is ahead of Jess. Julia Patanine is in between Rose and Eilish. So Eilish is 7th, Julia Patanine is 8th, Rose Harvey is 9th, Jess Warner-Judd 10th. across our coverage later on as well. Meanwhile, closer to halfway at Tower Bridge, all looking good and strong there. It's warming up though. Crowds building, always huge crowds at Tower Bridge. Good vantage point. If you're smart and you get your planning done as a spectator, you can try and get around a few places. The hard thing is not finding somewhere to watch, it's spotting your loved one out there.
Or indeed getting to the front when you get to your second or third spaces, because your first space is easy enough to get there early and get your spot, but it's getting increasingly hard to get to the front at those points.
So a couple of guys have already taken their tops off. I always feel when you see those guys have taken their tops off, they were destined to do that, whatever the weather. They were keen to do it, and they've gone early on it.
Yeah, only have to go to any track in freezing cold of December and see the same people doing the same thing. It amazes me. Well done. All right, we're into the business end of this now. Helen Obiri still leading. They go into the shade of the tunnel under Blackfriars. Asefa, Jepkoskai, the three of them, the three big favourites, the three big names. Stefan Hassan sadly had to drop out, otherwise he would have probably had the four top women in this race in the world at the moment. We've got three of them, which is great. Stefan is here in London. We'll be watching.
I think I've been having a look at some of the splits, and I think we've got going on here a little bit of yo-yoing of the pace and certainly surging. And Helen Obiri, the last time she was at the front, she picked it up from 5:18 to a 5:3. This time she's just picked it up from 5:24 to a 5:04, if those splits are correct. It doesn't look as fast as that. It still does look as though it's hard work, but it would do, the pace that they're going and the zone that these women are now operating in. But she's certainly asking questions, and big questions, of the other two women in here.
Yeah, some of the kilometre marks, they put them as close as they can, but they've just done a 3:06, if we're to believe that, followed by a 3:33. Again, that's too much of a jumping around to be totally accurate, but that's what we're being fed back. But I think you're right, we should look to see what's going on, and what is going on is that Helen Obiri is doing her utmost to try and break the other two, which is a bit of a surprise, has to be said. We thought that Helen at this point in the race would just follow and then look to be strong in the latter stages. Asefa looks controlled, looks comfortable. Jepkoskai, we said, would hang in there as long as she could, and she's doing that here. So any of these three can win. Don't forget, the two behind Helen Obiri have won this race. Asefa last year, Jepkoskai in 2021. Asefa and Jepkoskai have both run way quicker for the marathon than Helen Obiri, but Helen's always had this desire to come and try and show how quick she can go on a course like London. So for Helen, this is an interesting tactic.
What do you think of Daddy Pig's tactics?
Well, I don't know, he's way off his PB time. He ran about 6 hours 13 in Chicago 2023, and he's, I don't know, training's not gone well. There's Joe Wicks alongside
it might be
him.
Joe holding him up,
Well, it may well be, actually. Joe would never say that, and we'd never say that about Joe, but I think, yes, he's a drag on Daddy Pig.
He should really have taken the snacks to hang out, shouldn't he?
Good. From the not-so-elite back to the elite.
Kiplimo is still doing his best to try and hang on at the very least. He hasn't closed that gap, but it hasn't got any bigger. So Sawe and Kajeelcha and Kiplimo, three absolute superstars of world road running. Kajeelcha in his first ever marathon, showing what he's capable of. The world record that he held in the half marathon was taken by Kiplimo just recently in Lisbon in preparing for this race. That gave us an indication that Kiplimo seemed to be perhaps the slightly warm favourite for no other reason than we know that Sebastian Sawe had an interrupted preparation for London, hasn't raced since the autumn because of that. But obviously here we're seeing a man who still feels he's at the top of his game. They are still heading for what could be a new course record, one of the quickest marathons ever. We saw one of the quickest last year between those two, but not quite as quick as Kipton. But that is on the cards here, given that we've still got 3 men in contention.
3 men in contention and 2 starting to move away as well. That kind of indicates they might be able to get back to really thinking about the times, and perhaps not the 2 of them working together, but just pushing each other on. Ymiif has managed to close that gap. I was watching the smaller screens, and he has got closer at points. Every time he does, they surge away again, and that does 2 things. It gives them more confidence at the front, and it also weakens his psychological strength. He has to keep working again and again back to that group.
Right, we're going to take a look at the women here. Just a quick update further back for the on the men, just with the Brits. Patrick Diva still on 2.6 pace, as is Mohammed, as is Jack Rowe. So they're all running very well. Phil Sessamon just dropping off it a little bit. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. So we could have 3 or 4 British men really in contention to run under 2.7, which would be great. One more look round from Helen, and still seeing exactly what she saw last time she looked round. Asefa behind her, Jep Kosgei behind her. This is where you can see Big Ben, Paula, in the distance. You know, they've got 2 and a bit K to go, and you then start to think, if you're Asefa, who just for me looks a bit heavy leg now. She was a little bit more bounce in her legs before. Doesn't look the same to me at this point. Is Jep Kosgei maybe going to upset the apple cart here?
Maybe. I mean, it's certainly, this is now going to come down to a strength race. And I know a lot of people have looked at kind of stats, and Helen has those stats on the track. She has those 5,000 meter titles. She has those silver medals and Olympics and world champs. So she knows that she can go out there and finish at that pace. It is a very, very different thing, finishing at the marathon. It is about what you've got left. And that's where Jocelyn Jep Kosgei, who could not compete on the track with the likes of Helen Obiri, I think is more in the mix now because she has more strength.
3 very tired women for me here. They've all slowed. Nobody is strong enough at this point to really make an effort to win this. So there could well just be a settling here, saying, right, let's duel this out in the last few hundred meters, because they all look very tired. Asefa's knee lift is almost non-existent at the moment. Helen Obiri with that slightly forward action of hers, which is so familiar to track and road fans over the years. Jep Kosgei hanging in there, working hard to stay with this. There's almost like these little mini attempts all the time, and nobody with enough, certainly Helen not enough to break them. It wouldn't take much for me, Paul. It wouldn't take much. Maybe a bit of a lifting here from Helen Obiri, but you just get the feeling if you could just find something, you might just break them.
I do feel that's what she's trying. She's really trying to do that. Now, I drew the analogy with cross country earlier as they make that turn, and that is now a very, very welcome turn that they have made, to know that they are approaching to what, 1,200 meters or so to go. I think it used to be that when you went past Big Ben, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's the right turn, and then they get a little slight downhill just for a little bit, and then you come across the big roundabout here at Westminster, and then you'll end up on Birdcage Walk, where it absolutely flattens out, but you start to think about the finish at that point. So they're approaching Birdcage Walk now, and the crowds will be huge, massive. They'll all be waiting for their friends later on, but we'll be enjoying the tussle we're going to see in this women's race. How many times have we seen brilliant finishes here, but when it's the big names here, we saw Sifan Hassan manage to do it a couple of years ago. Asefa had it all to her own, to herself last year, but not this time.
No, and the point I was about to make is it's almost like she's running through mud at this point, Helen Obiri, and she does have a 5:48 is a huge, huge drop-off, and that's the price that she's paid for injecting that 5:04, if that's to be believed, although there might be a bit of balancing out to be done, because to be honest, they don't look like they're running at 5:48 pace. Do they? They look tired.
I thought they looked very tired, yeah, you know, certainly a few hundred yards back. A lift now, as Asefa's got that spring back in her step. Maybe that little downhill bit we've just seen helps you just rediscover your legs a little bit at this point. And so Asefa now starting to move alongside Obiri, as is Jep Kosgei. both of them saying, well, Helen, you had a go and you didn't beat us, but do not write Helen Obiri off. She is a very strong-willed, strong-minded, and a very quick athlete. And look at Helen then, again, just making a little surge. This is incredible.
Is it risky, though? You only have a number of those surges in the marathon. If I were Helen at that point, I think I would have kept that for a little bit later. Maybe she sensed, because they must be approaching the 800 meters to go, and there is a big, big board out there, and it's a very, very welcome sight at this point when your legs are as tired as they are. And I would bet that she's also starting to anticipate those corners. I would hope Dathan's brought her out here, had her walk around those final corners, because the other two know them. And look where Jepkosgei is placing herself, in the right place to be able to make those turns and come out on top on that final turn.
Well, Asefa looks rejuvenated here. Jepkosgei trying to hang on to the other two. She knows that they've got the pace. But as Paula said, you can't always produce that at the end of a marathon. Your legs are dead, the quads are aching. You know that you haven't got far to go, so your mind is managing to tell your body to keep going, but can it find that little bit of extra surge? Remember Asefa versus Sifan Hassan at the Olympic Games in Paris when she lost out. But Asefa this time looks as though she's making a bit of a long run for home here, and Helen Obiri will stick to her as long as she can. Jepkosgei just starting to struggle a little bit, but there's plenty of running left to go here. Asefa senses the first turn, the first right-hand turn, and then they can see Buckingham Palace, and then they'll make one last turn into the home straight. And is that a gap that is going to win her the London Marathon?
I think she's trying, and it would be a first for her, and let you now, yes, it is.
Helen Obiri finally breaks. Jepkosgei will try and run her down for second, but there's going to be no doubt about the winner here. She won last year. They went out incredibly fast this year. She set a new women's only world record in 2025. This time, she wanted to make sure of the win, so they slowed along the embankment. The time's not so important, but she won't be too far away from it. Now that 800-meter speed that she can tap into from all of those years ago has come into great effect. And it's Asefa, Tigist Asefa, who's going to make it 2 in a row in London. She won in 2025, well ahead of everybody else. This time she had to find the sprint finish, but she's the champion again in 2026 and will set another women's only world record by about 10 seconds. Helen Obiri will smash her personal best to take second place in her first London Marathon, and Jepkosgei completes this brilliant trio of athletes who've given us a great race today. But well done, Tigist Asefa, a fist pump to say, I did it, I won, I had enough at the end. Really, really intriguing though, Paula, for me, that Helen Obiri was the one forcing the pace when we all thought she would wait and produce the finish.
And we talk about the marathon is constantly a learning experience, and I think Helen Obiri learned a lot there. She acquitted herself really well. It's a phenomenal time. It might be the first time ever we've had 3 women under 2:16. I'm fairly sure that's going to set some records up there, but I think she just used a few too many surges, and yeah, she'll ask herself again and again, but she should also be very proud of the way that she raced there today. And for Tigist Asefa to defend that title, improve that record, given how fast all 3, I mean, I can't underline how impressive it is for all 3 of those women to go out as fast as they did and to hold on to run a time like that.
A roar of celebration from Tigist Asefa. Another tough race in London, tough against the clock, but mainly tough against excellent opposition. Helen Obiri was there all the way, so was Jepkosgei. They were the 3 we knew would contest this, and so it turned out to be. But for the second year in a row, Asefa was good enough. Different race for her this time, different test, but she came through it. Right, we'll start to see the athletes coming through now, and it's going to be Azemero who's going to be 4th. who ran well here a few years ago, and still going to run pretty quick here. Inside 2:20, you would think. Probably got about 90 seconds to go. Ymiif was in 7th place, but dropping beyond that sort of personal best time for her. So Ymiif is going to be about 5 or 6 minutes away. So this is 4th.
And she's done a good job in moving through, hasn't she? I mean, she's caught Amanangolo, who risked going with that lead pace early on, and then she's done a lot of this race on her own as Tigist Asefa, and now she will make that final welcome turn to see the finish ahead of her, and under no threat from the runners behind her. The next one we would expect is Amanangolo, Catherine Amanangolo.
I'm just watching a couple of a bit further down. Jess Judd Warner is in a bit of bother. She's being passed back. I think she's down to 12th and 13th place at the moment, but she's really labouring.
Asefa comes through to finish in 4th place, under 2 hours 20. Really good run from her. Did well to stick to her game plan when others maybe went off a bit too hard. Now, it's talking about sticking to the game plan. This is great to see, because Patrick Deva and Mohammed are locked together. And look, they're passing the man who was involved in that incredible finish, the closest ever at the World Championship Marathon last year in Tokyo. Petros was pipped by Simbu for the gold medal by 300ths of a second, and he's gone off too hard. So these guys are charging through the field now, heading for maybe 2:6, 2:7, hopefully 2:6, Paula, but this is great to see.
It is really great to see, and the three of them working together, almost in sync, kind of trading turns at the front, and they have to be feeling good at this point, and this is a nice way to run it, running quicker as you move through it. That's a psychologically better way. Of course they're as tired, but it's not as painful.
Yeah, and they're in a race, you know, and Patrick Deva wanted to finish strong, was chatting to him yesterday about this part of the race, and I'm not sure he would have expected to have as much company running as strongly as he is, but I think that's a good thing. Meanwhile, these two look as though they've got this to themselves. Look at poor Kiplimo, missed the break at the wrong time and just could not get back to them.
Yeah, so he's working away hard, sticking to the task, but these two now do look as though, certainly amongst themselves, they will now at this point have discounted Jacob Kiplimo. Not completely, but it's kind of like, now I just need to concentrate about the other guy with me, and I need to work on, as I was saying earlier, what have I got left, what does he sound like, and how am I going to judge this? Kajeelcha will absolutely wait until that final turn.
The champion versus the debutante. What a great race we're going to see here in the closing miles. Sebastian Sawe, considered to be the best marathon runner we've seen since Kiptum, since Kipchoge. A huge career ahead of him. Doesn't know what it's like to get beat in the marathon. Has won all of his 3 so far. That always pops up as a fast mile, and then the next one pops up as a slow one, so we'll kind of take it with a little bit of, you know, there's a bit of downhill as you go into the tunnel there, so it doesn't matter at this point. It's Sawe against Kajeelcha. Kajeelcha, all of the question marks about his ability to last the distance. Well, he's doing that. All he needs now is the icing on the cake to finish this off, because they are running still, Paula, within sight of that course record. Under 2:2 here. Sawe has run 2:2 in each of his 3 races. Slowest one here in London, but nonetheless an incredible average for just 3 marathons. And is he going to go quicker here? I think he traded time for the win, though.
Yeah, I think he would, given he's got that unbeaten record. But I was just about to say that of the 2 of them, he's the only one who's actually thinking about the time, because Kajeelcha, he's getting a personal best no matter what. And whatever happens from here on in, it's a phenomenal debut for him. And I think that has to be giving him a bit of a boost. And it's all of his visualization, all of his practices and run-throughs in his heads in training coming into this. This is the ideal one, to still be sitting here on the shoulder of the leader at this quick of a pace.
I just should explain that projected time there. So what happens is it kind of feeds in the previous mile. And because it was so fast, it then goes, all right, they're going to run another mile and another mile and another mile at that pace. And so they're going to run inside the world record. They have a chance to do that, but, as Paula's watching the feed station there, they have a chance to do that, but given that there's two of them here and they're so good. So it's going to be 2-1, defo.
Yeah.
Will it be quicker than that? So, course record 2:1:25, very much under threat. Fastest London ever from one of these two. World record, you saw it up there on your screen, possibly under threat.
Yeah, and you know what was key for me there, and that's why I was watching the feed station, is they started to separate on the road. Kajeelcha thought, he was concentrating on the blue line. He thought he had a bit of a lead, and then he realised Sawe had gone for his bottle. Now, that 40k bottle is not crucial in terms of actually getting fuel to your body. As you said, Steve, that was a little bit while ago. What that can do, though, is give you a sugar shot in your mouth, which your brain thinks is more energy, and it gives you a little bit of a surge. Is that yet going to be crucial here?
A very tired Eilish McColgan is going to miss, not by much, her personal best. Very, very tired. Went out hard again. She loves to commit. She loves to test herself. She stayed strong enough when it looked as though she really might struggle in the closing miles, but she's held it together pretty well. Is going to be 7th in the London Marathon. A little bit slower than last year, but not much difference in it. I think there's a 2:20 or 2:21 in there somewhere. Maybe not today, but for Eilish, another strong performance, and is going to get under 2:25. So well done to Eilish. Will, as she will know, as a bit of a bonus, be the best of the British athletes as well on show here today. But another good showing from Eilish against the world's best at the longest of distances.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to catch up with her afterwards and see where she thinks that she's going next from this. A big Commonwealth Games, of course, in her hometown of Scotland. Just watched Julia Patternine go past as well, not too far behind, and she hopefully is going to smash her personal best as well. And the move is on from Sawe, though, and there is a tiny, tiny bit of daylight opening up that Kajeelcha at the moment can't match.
Well, this is becoming incredible, because for the first time ever, I would say, in a proper, not what Eliud Kipchoge did, in a proper World Marathon Major, this late in the race, they are projected to run under 2 hours. Run outside, folks, grab anybody you can and say there's a bit of history maybe in the offing here. Nobody has ever run under 2 hours for the marathon in a race, in a proper race. We could well be going for this world record of 2 minutes and 35. You know why? Because he's getting quicker. This is over now as a race between 1 and 2. Sawe's going to win this. Kajeelcha's been brilliant. Now, can he break the world record? Can he get close to 2 hours?
How excited is Hugh Braysher right now? He's hopping up and down, and I'm sure Spencer Barden, who puts together the elite fields, are as well. But Sebastian Sawe can't get excited. He just has to keep drawing out what energy is left in his legs, in his lungs, in his arms, and just keep moving forward, keep pouring it in. This is something that would absolutely create history here today, and if he starts to think about the enormity of that, it might get a little bit too much. So he needs to concentrate, 1 foot in front of the other as much as he can. He knows he's broken Kajeelcha now.
Well, this performance is going to reverberate around the world one way or another, because I think if he can keep this going, as Paula says, his first task was to win the race, and let's hand it to Kajeelcha, because by being there, he's forced Sawe to just keep going, keep pushing, keep the pace on, particularly this last couple of kilometers where they've lifted, and that's so hard to do. We see it in many marathons these days, where the last 5K, we saw it in Boston on Monday, where so quick over the last 5K. That's different though, because they're downhill and they're charging. Here in London, we haven't seen a male world record since 2002. Khalid Kanuchi, the year before you broke the world record, Paula, he broke the world record, and it's been a long, long wait before we've seen the chance to have another world record here in London, but he's heading in that direction.
And you know, when Khalid broke that record, he was in a race as well. And that's what's produced this race against kajeelcha, pushing him all the way. And then now suddenly when he has that daylight, he also realizes 600 meters to go. And I've got that world record in my sights. Can he find a little bit extra just to squeeze that last little bit out?
Oh, I'm calling it here, Paula. It's 2 hours is on the cards for Sawe. Kajeelcha's going to be the second fastest ever, probably, if he doesn't fall apart in the last 600. He's doing his best to keep going. Do the crowd know? Do they sense this? They should be cheering to the rafters for this man. He won this race last year, and he is the best in the world at the moment. All of his 3 marathons he's won. He's run 2:2 in each of them, an incredible average. He came here with an interrupted preparation, injured in the autumn. Started only training properly in January, they said. Realised in February he's going to be fit enough to come back to London and perform well. But the question marks were still there. He had a great field against him. Now, though, it's just about him. Into the home straight. He's got over a minute, or just under a minute, to do this. He can do it. Come on, Sebastian. You can get this. History in the making. Under 2 hours. Nobody's ever done this. They said it couldn't be done. Sebastian Sawe is going to break the 2-hour mark. He's going to win the London Marathon in incredible style. An historic performance, 1:59.30. Absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like that. What a finish. That you would say is unbelievable, but we've just seen it. And kajeelcha was probably under 2 hours as well. Paula's just confirming to me in second place. There he is. The two men put an immense race together, but from a physical standpoint, that was something I don't think any of us thought we would ever see, certainly not in London. And I remember a few years ago saying, I'll never see somebody run under 2 hours for the marathon. And look at Kiplimo coming in third place. I'm not even sure what the clock is saying at the minute, Paula, but this is fast as well.
He's still going to be extremely fast, and it's amazing. You wait for ages, like he's only just outside the old world record. Absolutely phenomenal race as well. But what can you say about that? 2 men, we wait for how long? But 2 men underneath 2 hours. It's like waiting for a bus.
3 under the old world record. Oh, man. You know, that crept up on us in the sense that 4:12 mile, but then it was just surge, keep going. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he didn't just break it. Remember when Elliot did it, you know, with all of that help and the laps and all of the science and technology that went into it. Wow. Lost for words, genuinely lost for words.
As Kipruto battles his way up, and he almost feels like he's been out of the race now. He's going to cross that finish line and find out that history has been made ahead of him by Sebastian Sawe, who didn't just, I mean, he basically just skipped all of the 2 minutes, didn't he? Just went straight up ahead. I'll go right through that barrier and below it.
Did they run a negative split over the 2 halves there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Well, you can absolutely do that in London. I have to say, on the official computer that I've got, for a little while it just said Kiplimo first, and the other 2 hadn't finished. It's just corrected itself. So the winning time, 1:59.30. We think that's official. Goodness me, yeah, unbelievable. 1:59.30, 1:59.41 for kajeelcha. I mean, if you'd said, by the way, mate, you can run 1:59.41 in London, but you might not win. You wouldn't have believed that, would you?
I think if you'd even told Kiplimo that he might run 2 hours and 28 seconds, he might have thought that would have given him a good shot of winning it.
I think this is Teresa Galetta coming in 5th place. Or is it Tola? No, it's Tola. My apologies. Tola's in 6th place. Won't be too far. We'll have to wait a few minutes for the top Brits, but they're going well also. Still getting over this. You know, there are things that happen in sport where you want to be there to see it. You want to see history being made. Roger Bannister, the first ever 4-minute mile, everybody thought you couldn't do that. No human being could run that fast for the mile. And then those who were there on that day retold that story. Still today, you know, I was there. And if you are watching on TV, well done. But if you're here in London, and we've got the privilege of being here to see something that I'm sure many of us thought we would never see. Incredible.
I think it will reverberate around the world. I mean, the goalposts literally just moved for marathon running and where you benchmark yourself as being world class, because it has been done. And I don't know if I had a penny for every time I'd been asked whether I thought it could be broken in a race under legal conditions. Yes, but I actually didn't think today.
Okay, well, they'll keep coming through, and we're watching for the first British athlete. I think it may well be Mohammed Mohammed. I think he's got himself ahead of... Yeah, I think he's ahead of Patrick Diva. I'll just double check, because I think it's Lynch of Ireland who's moved from that group of 3 that we saw. He's finishing the best out of that group, perhaps, but we'll see them coming around shortly, although is that Patrick I'm seeing on a different camera. So we're looking for the first British man to run about 2:06. Won't be that far off the Mo Farah British record, and we could have certainly a couple running 2:06, which would be great. They won't know the news yet. Yeah, I was in that race where they broke 2 hours.
Well, do you know who had a front row seat? It was Jess Warner-Judd, who's crossing line at almost exactly the same time, just across the road there on the left-hand side. She went down that left funnel in the women's race, I think, around about 13th place, and crossed the line almost exactly the same time that sporting history was made. So it was an extraordinary day in not just marathon running, but in sport.
Well, we said at the start it was the day, wasn't it, to run the fast times. So yeah, we're watching now for Patrick Diva. Let's just remind ourselves, Mo Farah's British record 65, 2 hours 5:41. I think he's going to be within sort of 20 seconds, or maybe, it depends how he finishes, whether or not he can get close to that.
I think he's just come round into the straight.
Lynch.
That's Lynch
No,
first.
it's going to be Mohammed. Mohammed's ahead of him.
Yeah,
so Mohammed Mohammed, there he is, just ahead of Diva. Now, they're not going to get the record, but these two are going to run in 2:06. Patrick Diva's trying to get back to him. The two of them just about 10 meters apart, with Lynch of Ireland ahead of them. So these three have worked together very well right through the race here, have kept right on pace. So Mohammed Mohammed is going to come through behind Lynch of Ireland, crosses the line 2 hours 6, around about 7 or 8 seconds. Then Mohammed Mohammed is going to be 2:06.13, and again another personal best there for Patrick Diva in his second ever marathon, 2:06.18 or 19, there or thereabouts. Great race from the Brits. Phil Sessamon going to be a bit further back. Jack Rowe is in that group as well, so we'll watch for them finishing shortly.
And I think those Brits did just edge ahead of Joshua Cheptegei, who coming into this, of course, has the world records at the 5,000 and the 10,000, is now not the only world record holder to have raced out there today, and it was painful in those closing stages for him.
Irish record as well.